Good morning, Turfs Up Radio. Wayne Vo's Profits Unlimited coming to you live from Louisville, Kentucky. Yes, indeedy. Man, it finally, no rain, sun's out, weather's looking good, nice and cool this morning. And yeah, glad to see that rain get on out of here, man. We had, I don't know, 4 or 5 days in a row of wet weather, which was enough. Looks like we are going to be in a pretty good dry stretch. Maybe a little chance of some rain over the weekend during the night or something, like a limited time frame. We'll see what that looks like. Have reach out to my buddies at BAM and see what they got to say about that as we get a little closer to that time period. But yeah, it's nice to see this morning, and God, the sun's out. Yes, yay. And, it's like anything, man. It's too dry, we complain. Too wet, we complain. I don't know when we get to the just right porridge segment of that, but Little Red Riding Hood, right? But hey, it is Halloween, October 31st, 2025. Can y'all believe it? And it's on a Friday. Not that that matters really, but hopefully we don't have too much mischief going on this evening in your area or our area or anybody's area, quite honestly. But yeah, that one thing for sure is you get one chance, one opportunity. Would you take it, or are you just going to let it slip away? And we're going to talk a little bit about that today, about what are we letting slip away, and maybe what's not slipping away, but we can do it a little differently than the way we've done it before. And I don't know. I guess the big thing is Katie didn't let slip away was moving day. She's glad it's over. She got or 99.9% of all of her stuff moved out. Movers came, moved all of her big stuff for her, and had a big day yesterday getting that completed. So I know she's glad that that's underway. I don't know how y'all are on moving day, but it's like, oh my God, you just dread it. It's like, okay, let's just go on and get it done. And but I will say, I mean, she started, I don't know, about a week or so ago moving, 2 weeks ago, moving a little bit of stuff in at a time, and sure does. You don't realize how much stuff you got until you to move. I mean, it's been a long time for me, but um, I mean, I remember it, pretty well. It's like you think, oh my God, what are we still doing with this? And yesterday with Katie, I went over there to help them yesterday afternoon, and they had the movers were just finishing up getting their big stuff put in and put away and get ready to leave, and thank God for that. You know, but not that I got over there late, but that had some help doing it. I learned a long time ago it's a whole lot less expensive getting somebody to help you than it is rounding up friends and for beer and fish and chicken and hot dogs or whatever the heck you're going to feed them. It's all good intent, without a doubt. It's all good intent, and but generally something gets messed up or broke or something happens. I never forget one of I think it's the first time I ever moved. When Jane and I moved from an apartment to a house, I never will forget. We had a glass top table, and my friend David, when he and I were carrying it down the steps and dropped it, and there went that. So yeah, it seems to be something, but you don't mind it. You don't mind moving when you're younger like that, but man, as you get a little older, it's not quite the fun that it used to be. So okay, anyway, Katie's got her stuff rolling and got quite a bit accomplished yesterday. Actually, got everything in, and it's turning into not a house full of boxes, and that it looked like when I walked in, and they had a million things already put away. But it's just so much stuff when you move, man. I don't know if you've had the experience of moving recently, but if you have, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But hey, they're getting there, and she said, by the weekend, they should have things in pretty good order. So, yay, Katie, stay calm with it. Nothing fun about it, but it is kind of fun, especially once it's done. It's like, whew, man, we're done. You know, but we'll see how it works out. But yeah, that's what's going on here. That's what went on here yesterday, and not to mention that it rained, so they got to fool with all that, in the rain, and just hey, but no need in complaining. It's not going to do any good. It doesn't fix anything, right? That's the other reality of it. So don't keep complaining. Just get the job done, and that's what's going on. So curious to what you guys might be doing this weekend. Um, if you got plans this weekend, are you trying to catch up from a drippy week? I could see that happening too. You know, um, we had actually 2 days of pretty much lost production here. Wednesday, Thursday, we got a little bit done. Let's see, Monday and Tuesday were better days than we anticipated. Wednesday was a full washout, and then yesterday we turned it into a snow day actually, um, getting snow equipment hooked up and that whole thing, and that went well, and got rolling into that. We had a good Zoom meeting with the Profit Circle. Uh, what was that? Wednesday evening, and yeah, just the things are moving right along. It's hard to believe now this is the last day of October. So we got November to go. Fall leaf cleanups. Woohoo! Who's excited about that? And trying to get a little bit of work done today. Get some fertilizer put out today. Got a rolling pretty hot on putting fertilizer out and doing a little bit of trimming and landscape work today. And going to do a little bit of aeration tomorrow. So we'll see how that goes. Going to try to wrap those up tomorrow. And we actually had a call this morning from, remember a couple months ago when we were passing flyers out, right? Had a person call and say, hey, I got a flyer a while back on aeration. Just wanted to see if it's too late or if y'all can still do that. And absolutely, we can still do that. So we're going to see what we can do to set that up. So, other than that, that's been our start to the day here at WLS. And hopefully, you guys have had a good start to your day as well. And it ends up good. Big shout out to Aaron and Eric and Daniel for getting us kicked off this morning. I didn't get to hear my buddy Aaron this morning. I slept in a little bit this morning, quite honestly. I didn't roll out of bed till about 10 to 7, I think it was, or something. I was up overnight, man. I had just a lot of congestion and shit going on the side of my head. So last time I finally remember seeing time was like 2:05, and got up and took some Sudafed and a couple Advil, and that did the trick. That knocked me out for a minute. So anyways, that worked out all right. So we'll see how that's going. So feeling a little bit better than what I did. I ain't gonna lie, man. Yesterday kind of kicked my butt, and I just heard. I mean, I've heard a lot of guys talking about the crud. So I don't know how you guys are feeling with it right now, but yeah, we got. I'm looking forward to drying it up a little bit. I know that, and that Sudafed seemed to work pretty good and pretty quick. So took me another round of it this morning. I thought it was like 24 hours, and this morning I was talking to Tabitha, and she's like, no, you can take that more often than that. She said, here, look. And so, yeah, the frequency is more often. So I don't know. It's a lot better than it was. I'll tell you that. So thank goodness to the people that have come up with ways to try to help us out a little bit when it comes to stuff like that. So with that being said, we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back with more profit time. Don't you go anywhere. Welcome back. Welcome back to Profit Time here on Turfs Up Radio, your industry, your station. And it is Halloween. Daniel had some pretty crazy stuff about Halloween going on his show. And I want to talk about it just a little bit. And then we'll get into some snow talk. We're going to talk about snow a little bit. And looking forward to that too. But, I'm just curious, you guys, do you have a lot of trick or treaters? I mean, it's crazy. I'm in a subdivision where we have quite a lot of years, and I would say this year might be a decent year for trick or treaters, just because it's not going to be cold, real cold. It's going to be decent weather, and I know there's some years when it's not too great. I live on a cul-de-sac, and a lot of people don't want to come down the cul-de-sac. They'll just walk straight, and rather than taking that turn and coming down the cul-de-sac. But a lot of years we do have quite a few trick or treaters. So looking forward to seeing what this year might bring. Katie, neighbors have told her that they don't have a whole lot of trick or treaters, and but she bought candy anyway. So we'll see what she's got. And Daniel, I'm not sure within their neighborhood. They got a lot of kids in their neighborhood, but I'm not sure about trick or treaters that they may have. So I guess I bet all you can do is be prepared, have some candy, and it's kind of fun though. I mean, I always like it. Just sit out there and give candy out and um, talk to the kids and look at their different things and that they're wearing, and they're really happy. Probably mostly because they're getting a lot of candy, but it is kind of neat to see them be bopping around and all their different outfits. And what I think about really a lot when I'm watching them trick or treat is just the reality of the whole trick or treating concept, and how I think people have gotten a lot better at trusting people, I guess you'd say. I mean, I don't know if that's the right answer or not, and I don't want to jinx anybody, but there for a while it was pretty weird on having to watch what you were getting. I remember that going trick or treating, but but certainly what always amazed me too was the people that were Scrooges when it come to trick or treating, and that'd be like, they're home, but they just ain't answering their door, you know. And I don't know how much that you guys run into with that, or when you would take your kids trick or treating or whatnot, or hell, it might even be you. You might be the person that turns the light out and acts like you're not home. And I mean, that's okay if that works for you, but it's like one day a year, surely and I know candy's expensive, and you come up with a million reasons on why you don't want to do it. But the reality of it is we got to think about the right reason of why we're doing it. And, it's not just to make the kids happy, but, keep the kids from egging your house, or keep the kids from toilet paper in your trees, or, you know, all those things that go along with some mischievous acts that take place going uh, uh, going along during Halloween time frame. But I remember one time Jane and I were sitting on the porch passing candy out, and I think Holly was still there with us, and the Jane's diamond fell out of her ring, and that was crazy. She just looked down and she was like, "Oh my God, my diamond fell out of my ring," and we're like, "Well, some kids gonna find it in their bucket." And and not have any idea what it is probably, and just pitch it, and that's going to be the Katie said they'd eat it. I don't know if they'd eat it, but who knows. But luckily enough, Holly found it on the porch. We've got uh, on our porch, it's that, I forgot what you call that concrete where you can see the rock in it, but anyways, whatever the hell that is. um, Hell, I can't think of what it is, um, but Holly saw it. She got her flashlight and was just looking for a glitter, and she found it. So it did not go into almost said an Easter basket. It didn't go into a candy basket or anything like that. It was right there. So uh, that was uh, that was a good treat uh, for that end of it. So yeah, we got that and didn't have to buy a new one or insurance a new one. You never know. So for you ladies sitting there, be sure to watch your rings. Watch your rings because weirder things have happened. So that would have certainly been a not too good of a trick or treating evening. And but yeah, we have had. I'd say the most we've ever had is probably. Gosh, I'm just guessing maybe 200-300 maybe. That would be on the high side, but generally, it's somewhere around 100, 150. But one year, my God, they were just from everywhere and cars driving people in. And, you remember that year, Daniel? Or was you? It was, I don't know, it was just a really warm weather year. And just kids were coming from everywhere. And thank goodness we didn't run out of candy, but we were always pretty good on being stocked for candy. And so, matter of fact, I need to get some for tonight. And there's some more. We had a couple bags. Tab got a couple bags. And, you kind of wait on the weather to see what the weather's going to be like before you get too much. But yeah, hopefully trick or treating goes well tonight for everybody. And, something that I noticed in my years, and let's see, Daniel, I want to get your opinion on this. Hold on, we're going to get a headset for Daniel about this and the whole trick or treating concept here for a minute. I want to, oh my goodness. Let's see. Y'all bear with us just for a second here. And just curious if you guys go trick or treating or not. Do you take your kids trick or treating or do you stay back and pass candy out and your significant other does the walk around with the trick or treat or not? But it's hell, it's not wrong or right. It's whatever works for you all. I know Jane used to always take the kids predominantly trick or treat, and I'd give the candy out. So I always liked that. But when you were trick or treating, Daniel, just
Yes.
curious, do you did anybody like when you go up and say trick or treat? Did anybody ever say trick?
I don't specifically remember, but I think yeah, you got a couple
I
usually.
do that a lot, and kids just look at you like a deer in headlights. Like,
Yeah.
they don't have a trick ready, like, water gun to squirt you with, or, it's like they look at you like, what
I
the
think
hell?
I don't know because we didn't talk about specifically the origins of trick or treat, what the thing means. But
Yeah.
to me it seems like it would almost be treat or trick, right? Like, hey, give me this or I'm gonna trick you somehow,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Treat
But
or trick. Yeah.
trick or treat rolls off the tongue a little bit smoother maybe, but
Yeah. Maybe because we're just used to it too.
yeah.
But, but I do that a lot. Mike said, his brother lives in a busy neighborhood. They give out candy to the kids and give hot dogs and cold beer to the parents or soft drinks. You
Nice.
know, they just fire up the Blackstone.
There you
But
go.
that's funny, Mike, that you mentioned that because I was going to talk about. I a lot of times will do Jello shots for the adults. And it's funny, like one year when I didn't do them, and I forgot completely about them this year. Quite honestly, um, I won't have any. People say they'll ask for them. Hey, you got them Jello shots?
Mhm.
So that the origin of the Jello shot and trick or treating for Wayne Vos started down at Green River Lake State Park. Is where that started. I thought one year I thought, man, I'm gonna make Jello shots for the parents as they go cruising around. But that's cool, Mike. If you're being serious about cold beer and hot dogs, but hey, why not? It's fun. You're sitting out there. It's everybody's in it for the right reasons. That's involved in it anyway. But You don't remember anybody saying trick, huh, Daniel?
I don't specifically remember it, but I mean,
Katie,
I
do
can
you?
only imagine that a few probably did.
No, she doesn't remember any either. I know I do it to a few every year, and like I said, nobody ever knows what that they're supposed to have a trick prepared. I used to just always carry a little water gun. You probably couldn't do that now,
No.
but you pull a gun, somebody be diving off the porch or something. But I used to carry a little squirt gun. And somebody if they pulled trick out on me, I'd give them a little shot, and then they,
My God.
you know, but they don't do that anymore, I'm sure. So,
Yeah.
but I was just wondering, any of our listeners out there have anything like that? Oh, Mike says he takes his kids around a little bit, but they're still small, so it goes fast.
Mm,
Yeah, that was always fun. I know, man, we'd get home from work and feed the kids real quick, and I don't know, about 6 o'clock, normally our door was ringing, and Jane was walking around the neighborhood
yeah.
with y'all. And when y'all were much smaller, Sherry used to come over. You remember that? And she'd walk around. So,
Maybe.
but God, Halloween and trick or treating. I don't know how big the industry is, but Mike said needs a tie that shoots water. Yeah, but I don't know how much candy sold. I'm sure
I'd
you
say
could
it's a
Google
lot.
it, but it's got to be a crazy amount because everywhere you go, I mean, you sit. Thank God you don't hear too many weird things, going on with trick or treating. But and another thing I just wanted to touch base on about trick or treating was, and this year I don't have my Christmas lights up yet,
Hmm.
but last year I did,
Yeah.
and I'd have my Christmas lights on, um, and outside, and everybody say, "Oh man, that's pretty cool," because they were Grinch themed.
Yeah.
Had the red and green going. So got the kids enjoyed that pretty much, I think. Maybe so, Mike. Mike wants to know if dentists have stock in Halloween candy. So maybe candy in general. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I will say they probably do take their kids trick or treating.
Probably
You
so.
know, I mean, it's just brush your fangs a little bit. But uh, how many older people a lot of people get disgruntled when they see like teenagers trick or treating.
Yeah.
I think we stopped trick or treating, we meaning me, when I was trick or treating, probably at 13, probably seventh or probably eighth grade.
Yeah.
Didn't go after that and
Yeah.
probably didn't want to go.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it probably stops becoming a thing that you do in high school,
but
for most people.
yeah, every once in a while, I do get some older ones that'll knock on the door, and that's
Yeah.
cool. It's better than them out throwing toilet paper at the house or eggs at the house.
Yeah. What they're really doing is scoping your house out.
Yeah, well, maybe. Right. Oh, seeing what's going on. Hope you got your garage door open.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is a Halloween thing that I have learned to do is keep my garage door closed. Not that we have anything crazy in there, but I mean, again, it's not bait. You don't want it to be symbolized as bait there, but yeah, I hope everybody has a good Halloween and don't get mad at some of the older kids rolling around and like I said, they could be doing worse things. Hopefully, they're not scoping your house out, but hell, anything's possible, right? I
Yeah.
mean, anything's possible. So, all right, well, let's take a short break and we'll be right back. I want to talk a little bit about snow. And like I said, we had test day the other day, Wednesday, when it was raining, and had pretty good results with that. We actually can't remember. I think I may have shared this. I don't know if I shared it or not, but um, we had one controller that in a truck that wasn't functioning as should. So we had a relay that had went bad and the ends on the relay. So got that taken care of and up and rolling. So yeah, we're good to go, we think, and everything's been rocked on and tested. And so it's that time of the year for you guys that do snow and for you guys that are doing leaves. And, like in our market, we're getting ready to get wide open with leaves. Uh, Certainly by now, hopefully, you've done your test and tune on all your leaf vacuums and your leaf blowers and your parking lot blowers or whatever type of blowers you're using, and just making sure you're good to go on that as well. But, snow season might be off to an early start from what we're hearing. I know the BAM guys were talking about that, Daniel, just the other day. I was watching a video that they put out. So
It'd be cool.
we'll see. We'll see.
Ready for a
And
white Christmas.
so, yeah, yeah. So I know last year we had a an event November 30th. So it's about 1 to 2 inches of snow is something we got to go out and treat. So it was a treatable event. So that was awesome. Made it just under our retainers for December. So by a day. So that was awesome. But speaking of snow, Monday coming on my show, I've got Tim Wasmer. He's going to be on my show Monday and going to talk. And I've had him on here last year, and he's got a software called Snowscapes that does tracking and all for your snow, your material uses, your plowing, and all that. So be sure to join us Monday. Put a note in your phone to be sure to be here Monday with us as Tim's going to talk about snowscapes, specifically for how it works with snow. And then also, I know they have been working diligently with that software with improvements and whatnot, customer feedback like all software companies do. And but Tim and them are actual contractors as well, and still involved in the business. So they got a firsthand experience on what contractors, want to see happen and what happens and how to do their software. So be sure to join us Monday at 10 a.m. on Profit Time for that. Looking forward to having Tim on again. And we had one of our suppliers call us yesterday asking about material. They're like, can y'all take about 50 to 75 tons of material uh, Friday, meaning today? And I'm like, no, we're really not in a position to do that right now. So they're like, all right, we're just calling around trying to get some material out, and not that we got snow coming next day or two, but they're just trying to get some of their early orders shipped is what they're trying to do, and heck, you can't blame that, right, Daniel? You know,
Yeah. Don't know if the answer's yes or no until you ask.
till you ask. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll probably take a couple truckloads in next week at some point too, just before we get too crazy, with it and in line. But like I said earlier, and we talked about it in the profit circle um, about material this year, may be a potential issue. So I want you guys to know that, going into the season, although availability right now is pretty daggone good, um, and it's not an issue, availability always turns into an issue, or a lot of times turns into an issue once it starts snowing. But from some feedback that I've heard from different distributors, um, is that there wasn't quite as much new mining going on. Um, so once we start going with it, it's uh, could be a supply and demand issue. So for just take that for what it's worth. Just take that for what it's worth, and just know that you heard it here. If you haven't heard it already, that you heard it here on Profit Time here on Turfs Up Radio. And in the profit circle, we were, like I said, we beat that horse pretty good a couple different times about material and how much to keep on hand. And the answer to that is much as you can based on storage capacity. That's the reality of it. And so we got some good information, on that. But and I also know that, as a smaller company, it can be a challenge to keep a whole lot of material somewhere. I get that too. I remember it, when it was just uh, me and my brother doing snow, and we were both living, he was at his house, I was at my house. We didn't have a whole lot of, I like that a lot. See if you like that, Daniel. A new yard sign. Yay, Juan sent us. So we're getting some new yard signs printed up. We'll talk about that in a minute. But
Yeah, looks good.
yeah, it does look good, doesn't it?
Pops.
So, anyways, yes, indeedy. But yeah, so where you're going to keep it can be problematic. I get that. So yeah, it's great for somebody to sit back and say, "Oh yeah, keep X number of outs on hand, and whatever you need, have 8 or 10 or 20 or 15, whatever the number is, on hand." But if you don't have the space, I get that. I remember I just had a 12 by 12 storage shed in my house. And I mean, I could keep, a couple pallets is all we could keep. And at the time, that was a lot for us, quite honestly. I mean, God, I remember the days when, we were only putting down 700, 800 pounds of material on a, on a round, so, and I know some of you guys are laughing at that, but I mean, that's the reality. We all start somewhere. And, I mean, now it's like, okay, that's going in it's one good hopper full, but, on a tailgate spreader even. But, keep as much as you can, get as much as you can. And, absolutely. So, absolutely get it while you can. That's going to be, because there's nothing worse. There's nothing worse than needing it and you can't get it, or and then you're struggling. So don't struggle with it. So get what you can. Work with a supplier. I mean, I know a lot of suppliers. If you go ahead and order, um, some will charge you a little bit extra to keep it on hand for you, as long, and then know that, hey, by January or February, you've got to take it, because they're going to be making room for spring product coming in. Or maybe you just got to bite the bullet and rent a storage facility, or get one of those, what are those storage things, like trains have on them.
Uh,
uh,
Not
uh,
a box car, right? But
yeah, the
like a
damn, I can't even think of what they're called, but you guys know what we're talking about. Maybe you store it in one of those. I mean, yeah, you got a little bit of cost to it, but at the end of the day, um, again, it's material on hand. And be sure, verbiage within your service contracts, cover supply and demand issues. Okay. And, what happens in the event of availability or lack of availability, so just got to think about it. So, and another thing I want to talk about was, some snow quote I saw the other day. Cargo container. Thank you, Corey. That's it. And those can help out in a lot of ways, man. I mean, we use ours all the time. I mean, we rotate seasonally what's going in it. We're not keeping material in it because we got enough inside storage for our bagged material, and then of course our bulk goes outside in our bins. But um, it's certainly an option. Let's put it that way. But so we get the material thing worked out, and it comes back to bidding jobs, and what's covered in your service contracts with your customers, uh, from a bidding standpoint on, terms of payment. I mean, that's something that we all need to think about, as well. And I was reading something on social media the other day, and a guy had something basically, I'm looking at it here, but I don't want to read you the whole thing. It says, I need help quoting my first job. And we're back to that again, right? But, he said it's about 100,000 square feet. And he said I got about 17 snow events per year, plowable events per year. And I'm trying to figure out what I should, charge for this. Well, number one, and we're not going to beat that horse to death, that um, you're going to the wrong place to figure out what to bid, right? I mean, we all know that. We're not going to talk about that side of it right now. But if you do need help bidding a snow and ice management part of your business, I will say that we have a quick estimator for snow that will solve that problem for you. It's specifically designed for snow, liquids, granular products, plowing time, and then whatever type and size of equipment you input that and into the estimator, and it'll come up with time and material for the job based on the type of material you're using. Because they're going to have different application rates. And, snow and ice really is one of those things where you're better off training and educating yourself. Um, Anything that you offer, you're better training and educating yourself. But there's so many different variables in ice melter capacity, whether it's magnesium chloride or calcium chloride, potassium chloride, or if you're going to utilize some of the acetates or some of the products like magic salt, or there's just different products that are out there that it's not a one size fits all when it comes to application rates and or timing and or residual effects of that ice melter. And that's where going on social media and people are will give you an answer. But like in this guy's case, he says we have about 17 plow events per year. Well, about 30 answers in, I mean, somebody or nobody had mentioned the fact that, okay, they're telling him how to price the 17 plowable events. Nobody thought about, okay, well, how many, if you're bidding this as a seasonal contract, how many de-icing events are you going to have in there? Because I know in most markets, it's at least a 4-to-1 ratio. And nobody was even talking about that, and that's when I brought that up to them that, hey, something you may want to consider is the de-icing events. I mean, you easily have a salt plow salt or some type of ice melter, plow ice melter uh, for a single plowable event. So even though you've calculated the plowings, are you calculating the proper number of de-icing events that are going to be included in that as well? And up to that point, like I said, 30, 40 answers in, it's just nobody had given that advice. So, I did mention it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, man, I didn't even think of that." I mean, because that could be like up to 34 saltings minimum, even on a 2-to-1 ratio. So that's what you got to know about your market, and those ratios are going to depend on what your trigger points are as well. In other words, are you operating on zero tolerance accounts, or are you working on accounts that are saying, "Hey, don't plow till we get 3 inches of snow," and then I want one application of ice melter each event, or no more than two, or whatever the specifics of the scope of work may be. And that's where today we're not getting into that, but the reality of that is you can't have too many different menu choices as far as service offerings go. And what I mean by that is trigger points on, hey, when you're going to go, what puts you on the launching pad. Does that make sense, Daniel?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
it gets too hard to manage if you got.
it's definitely too hard to manage.
It gets too hard to manage when you're trying to decide. Okay, well, I got this one that we doesn't get ice melter unless they requested. This one gets ice melter, but only after we plow, and no pre treats and no post treats, and again, all this, however you want to run your business, but also know that however you're running your business, you need to have this verbiage in your service contract, on who's responsible. I call it who makes the call. You know, uh, as a business, when you're running around in one truck or two trucks, it's fun to call your customers at 2 in the morning and wake them up, see if they want an ice melter application. Not literally fun, but we do those silly things. But the reality of it, or wait for them to call us and then say, "Oh yeah, man, ABC just called, man. We're going to go make an application of material." You know, once you get any kind of scale to your business at all, and I'm talking about even a one truck operation, um, the running around in the summer is bad enough, bopping from job to job, but when it's snowing, it's even worse. And that's why you've got to have a pretty set methodology on the types of accounts that you're going to service and know that, hey, this is how we're going to run this route. Because when you got to backtrack in snow, and now generally when you're backtracking, it's during business hours and there's more traffic and you're slower. It just puts a wrench in the whole business model, if you will. So, first and foremost, be careful on how many different offerings of service you're going to have as far as trigger points or zero tolerance accounts or, hey, wait till it stops snowing and then come clean me up. That's all we're concerned with. I'm not saying not to do it that way. I'm just saying it gets problematic that way. And when I say who makes the call, there's a lot of things that come into play from a management standpoint for you as the contractor on why it's important that you make the call. Excuse me. Give me just a second. It's important that you're the one that's doing the dispatch on whether it's one truck or multiple trucks and not waiting for the client to get to work and say, "Oh yeah, man, this should have been done. This needs to be done." You got an hour and a half to get here. You got an hour to get here, and that's where you got to look at verbiage and contracts and the scope of work. Um, Verbiage is when they start putting, "Hey, lot must be clear by 7 a.m." or "You've got 2 hours to respond to our phone call to be here." You know, their lack of planning and lack of budget in many cases does not constitute your emergency. And that's just the reality of it. I mean, that is just the number one reality of it. And you've got to decide that you're going to take the bull by the horns and run your business the best way that you know how to run your business. And that is in a logical order of a certain type of accounts. And like this person here looking at, you know, well, hey, this is my first time quoting a commercial job. It's, that's only, 100,000 square feet or whatever it was. I mean, it's just a little like 2.5 acres, under 2.5 acres. But 2.5 acres can turn into a problematic account for a single truck operator um, when it comes to return visits, and so how long do you want to, or how long or how much work do you book out? It works the same, turns into the same answer. But, you know, what is the length of time that you want to book per vehicle or per type of skid steer or whatever it is, pusher? There's capacity for each and every one of us. And the first thing we got to determine is capacity. And what's capacity in a predetermined worst case scenario for you? That predetermined worst case scenario is going to be different for each one of us, listening today. Maybe for us, our predetermined worst case scenario is 6 hours. We don't want any of our clients waiting longer than 6 hours for service. That's just who we go after. So we try to and successfully do go after that type of clientele. If somebody says, "Hey, man, I just, I don't need that level of service. I just want to know that I'm not going to be price gouged when somebody, when it snows and I'm trying to find somebody. I want to have somebody on the books that I can dial up that's going to be here." Well, you can take some of those, but then know that those are the same people that are going to be calling you when you're slower at responding to your full service accounts, that it's really not right to your full service account to build too many of those what we call call-in customers um, into your route density. So the hardest thing that I had to do and being completely transparent was realizing that I had to get rid of that type of clientele. I just had to get rid of that type of clientele. And that is the clientele that wants to micromanage my response time, my service offerings, whether it's de-icing or anti-icing or pre-treats, or whether it's plow, regardless of what it is. Develop and implement your system that you're going to use and stick to that methodology. Because the nice thing about snow and ice management is simply this, and this is maybe the biggest takeaway of the whole day here on Turf's Up Radio on my show, Profit Time. And hopefully you've thought about it like this, but if you haven't, that's okay. And if you're new, maybe you haven't. But snow and ice management offers us something that no other service offers us. And I'm going to say it one more time. Snow and ice management service offers us something that no other service really offers us. And that simply is this: it is a very time sensitive service. Now, you say, Wayne, that's not profound. My God, anybody their first day in snow understands that. Absolutely, they do and should. But is your methodology of how and what type of accounts you're going after? Because if you're talking to somebody today, October 31st, and there's no snow on the ground and it's 55 degrees outside, they're not really thinking about, hey, what's the problem with a snow that starts at 7:30 in the morning, and what's your response time to my facility? But my contract says or my scope of work says that lot's got to be clear by 6 a.m. Well, it didn't start till 7:30. So now you weren't able to, the lot was clear when the scope said it had to be clear. So it's up to you to come up with a different and better system than that. And if you want a different, better system than that, certainly do that, implement that, and we have got that system availability and explanation for you. I mean, it's a simple explanation. But it took me a few years to figure out that, hey, if I sign somebody else's contract that says, hey, lot must be clear by whatever time they give me, hell, my first question now is, what time's it going to start snowing? Well, I don't know. That's what your customer's going to, well, I don't know. Well, then how can I tell you that your lot's either going to be serviced or plowed by that time frame? Well, that ain't what we really mean, Wayne. What we really mean is we just need fast service. We need to know that you're going to be here, and have the lot serviced. If it starts snowing at midnight and it's done at 2 a.m., I want my lot clear by 5 a.m. Now, that is a completely different scenario. But when you start signing service contracts that say lot will be cleared off or cleaned or whatever verbiage they put in them by a given time frame, and you sign it and you don't follow through to the scope on the scope of the work with that time frame, guess what they don't have to do? That's right. They don't have to pay because you did not perform to the scope of the contract. So be careful about what you're signing. Be really careful about what you're signing because that's where a lot of contractors get burned. And I don't want to see that happen to you guys, you know? So, whether it's a third of an acre or 300 acres you're taking care of, or 1 lane mile or 1,000 lane miles, know where your capacity is at based on the equipment you've got. Then determine what do you have in reserve capacity for a worst case scenario that you perceive as a worst case scenario event. I'm not saying you got to plan for a once in 100-year storm, but you certainly got to plan for an out of the ordinary storm that could and does take place in anybody's market. So, snow, there's a ton of variables that get involved. But again, getting back to it as we wrap up today, the nice thing about snow and ice management is simply this. It's a very time sensitive service, and all you got to sell are hours of service, not days of service. So you can have a really, really good methodology in play to help you succeed, to help your customers succeed, and to help you achieve the profit dollars that you deserve. If you need any help with that, feel free to reach out to us at Profits Unlimited. We'll be happy to help you with that. And remember, profit is not a dirty word. Have a great weekend.